What's happening, financial coaches? It's Pete here. Hey, I want to talk to you about when to double down on what you're doing. Now, we actually have a lady in our group here who is crushing it with Facebook videos. So I don't want to use her name because I don't want to put anything out there for anyone that doesn't want it out there quite yet, but she's doing a great job. And one of the things that I was thinking about as she's doing this, because it's increasing her exposure, it's helping build her credibility, it's helping show people what she's like, and kind of giving people a taste of how she works, right? So if they do want to hire her as a coach, they'll kind of have some expectations already and kind of probably go into that with some comfort. And what I like about it is there's really two stages of kind of building your funnel or your sales machine and your marketing machine here. And the first one, when I say double down, is when you have only one option for marketing. Now, you can do a lot of things to promote yourself. You could run ads on billboards or television commercials or mailers or do all sorts of stuff, right? But for most of us, that's just not going to make sense. One, because of the cost, the logistics, the effort, probably the low return on most of those types of things, right? There's limitless numbers of ways that you can promote yourself. And, including running ads on Facebook or, YouTube pre-roll ads and all that stuff. But I'm generally not a big fan of that, not for this type of business. So, one, when you want to double down on what you're doing, is when you are kind of limited in the options that you have. And I think for a lot of people, whether you're on Facebook doing, videos or writing blog posts or pushing videos on LinkedIn or you run a YouTube channel or whatever it is, those are very low cost options for marketing. And so I think you should double down on that, even if you don't have the results yet, even if you're not getting measurable results out of them quite yet, because we don't have other options and we do have this option. And if it's our budget and hopefully will lead to some of the things that we need it to lead to, then we should double down on it. The second thing that should be a trigger for you to double down is when something works. So my example here is that for me, a lot of things have worked. And a lot of things have not. I probably have a list of 2 or 3 times as many things on my do not work list, or just were not worth the effort, including cold calling and mailers and ads in the back of high school graduation programs. Heck, I've done those. Don't do them. They're terrible. If you want to just support an organization, then great. Throw $40 and run an ad and support them, but you're not going to get anything out of it. But what does work are videos and, speaking engagements. For me, it was doing workshops or presentations, just meeting people, at casual events. A lot of times when I wasn't expecting it, we would just start talking about what we do and I'd start fielding some questions, whatever. Right. Maybe that would lead to some personal follow-up later. So those were good things for me. And what I'm saying here is that if you post Facebook videos or YouTube videos or LinkedIn, or your blog posts are working, or your text posts on Facebook are working, even in a small way, let that sink in, let that register and say, hey, I found a way that is converting at least interest. These are the first things. It doesn't necessarily have to be the big sale. It doesn't have to be the $150 an hour client, right? Some of these things might just be part of the path of getting to those, right? Having that conversation, because sometimes you're going to have to talk to people a few times. So, if that's working, if you're getting something positive and promising out of it, double down on that, continue to do it. And the reason I like that is because you just don't know what's going to blossom for you. And when you start sniffing at something that's working, start digging a little bit at it, keep going at it, because I think, especially in the world of, scalability, if I figure out something that makes me $1, then I can do it 5 more times, make $5 and $10 and $50 and $100, right? If I ran a Facebook ad for a product and I spent $100 on that Facebook ad and found that it made me $120, right? That's a reasonable return. $100 makes $120. If I run $200, it makes me $240. So if you're finding something that leads you to a prospect, continue to double down on that, continue to do it. And what I'm saying here is that, I have my way of prospecting. You probably have your way. Some of these things will be different based on your experience and your comfort level, your relationship with technology, maybe your geographic location, your personal natural market. I don't know what those are, but we're going to have lots of differences. So what works for me might not work for you. It might, or maybe a version of it. or what works for you may have been things that didn't work for me. So what I'm saying is, don't necessarily say, hey, I'm just going to duplicate what I'm doing, me, or what my friend is doing, or what I've seen some of the other people do, or what's written in some of these guidebooks. But whatever is working for you, whatever is getting you closer to your clients, getting you closer to converting clients, prospects into clients, or maybe getting you clients, or maybe getting you a few clients, just continue to do that. As you saw with my conversation with Neil, thing that's working for him is really just expressing his love for finances and living that in his day-to-day life, and that is really working well in his natural market. So I don't know that he has to do a lot of videos or marketing in a traditional way, because he doesn't necessarily need the clients to provide the income. I mean, so he can take a client 1 month, he can take 10 clients 1 month, he can take no clients in 1 month, right? Because that's not his primary income. Now, if it is for you, then your strategy might have to be a little different. But what I'm saying is, just if you find something that works, don't abandon it. And the reason I'm bringing this up, it might seem really obvious. Hey, if something's working, Pete, why would I abandon it? I see a lot of people abandon stuff that's working in favor of something that they think is going to work better and usually doesn't. And it's usually an abandonment because it's not working as well as we'd hope. And my point here is that if it's working, all we have to do is start refining it. If you want to abandon a process that's working and go find something new, it's usually starting from scratch again, kind of building that reputation, starting to see what kind of returns we're getting on it, right? We're starting from ground zero again. But if you find something that is working at all, what we can do is figure out, how can we make our time more efficient, or how can we expand our message, or how can we get it to more people, or whatever it might be. But that's where I want you to double down on what's working for you, or what feels right, or what's getting you closer. But there are a lot of times that we also think about things that, hey, we think this is moving the ball, but we've tried them for months, maybe even years. I remember talking to a guy, and he was going to this business networking group for a little over 2 years. And I asked him, why does he continue to do that? And he's like, well, the connections are great and I might get something out of it, and blah, blah. And I said, what do you expect to get out of it? And probably 2 or 3 good leads a year. And I said, well, you've been in it for 2 years. How many leads have you gotten out of it? 0 is what he said. So if you've gotten 0 so far in 2 years, what makes you think that next year is going to be the breakthrough year of getting 2 leads, right? And to really work the averages, you need 6 leads. So would you go from 0 in year 1, 0 in year 2, to 6 in year 3? And what he ended up doing is just kind of quitting that networking group, because he was getting good leads and making good progress with a lot of other things that weren't taking up any time, like his email newsletter, even leaving some follow-up calls, some voicemails for people that he had worked with in years prior. So all of a sudden now he's just doing a little work at home, writing the newsletter, getting that out. He's making a few calls to people that, naturally had kind of moved on from coaching because they were done, and just kind of following up. Hey, this is your financial coach. Hope things are going well. I just thought I would check in, see how things are going. And a lot of people were calling back and saying, you know what, we are going through this. We've got a kid going off to college. I have some questions. I'd love to reschedule. So some of those things, even though they don't seem sexy, even though they don't seem like, really scalable marketing efforts, were leading to results. And yet sometimes we want to abandon them for something that we think is something that's tried and true. And really, for each of us, we have those things that work. We have the areas where we're strong and we can kind of get results. So whatever those are for you, keep chasing them. Double down on what's working for you. And if you find things that are working and they're just not working well enough, kind of go back, rethink, and maybe tweak and try some other stuff. But if you're finding something that makes $1, it can make 5, it can make 10 and 50, 100, so on. So that's my advice for today. Double down on what works. That's it. See you later.